The red fox vulpes is the largest of the true foxes and one of the most widely distributed members of the order Carnivora, being present across the entire northern hemisphere, including most of North America, Europe, and Asia, plus parts of North Africa. It is listed as least concern on the IUCN Red list. 1. Its range has increased alongside human expansion, having been introduced to Australia, where it is considered harmful to native small and medium-sized rodents and marsupials. Due to its impact on native species, it is included on the list of the world's 100 worst invasive species. 4. The red fox originated in Eurasia during the Middle Pleistocene at least 400,000 years ago. 5. And later colonized North America sometime prior to 130,000 years ago. 6. Among the true foxes, the red fox represents a more progressive form in the direction of carnivory. 7. Apart from its large size, the red fox is distinguished from other fox species by its ability to adapt quickly to new environments. Despite its name, the species often produces individuals with other colorings, including leucistic and melanistic individuals. 745 subspecies are currently recognized, 8 which are divided into 2 categories: the large northern foxes and the small basal southern gray desert foxes of Asia and North Africa. 7. Red foxes are usually found in pairs or small groups consisting of families, such as a mated pair and their young, or a male with several females having kinship ties. The young of the mated pair remain with their parents to assist in caring for new kits. 9. The species primarily feeds on small rodents, though it may also target rabbits, squirrels, game birds, reptiles, invertebrates. 7. And young ungulates. 7. Fruit and vegetable matter is also eaten sometimes. 10. Although the red fox tends to kill smaller predators, including other fox species, it is vulnerable to attack from larger predators, such as wolves, coyotes, golden jackals, large predatory birds such as golden eagles and Eurasian eagle owls. 11. And medium and large-sized felids. 12. The species has a long history of association with humans, having been extensively hunted as a pest and fur bearer for many centuries, as well as being represented in human folklore and mythology. Because of its widespread distribution and large population, the red fox is one of the most important fur-bearing animals harvested for the fur trade. Too small to pose a threat to humans, it has extensively benefited from the presence of human habitation and has successfully colonized many suburban and urban areas. Domestication of the red fox is also underway in Russia and has resulted in the domesticated silver fox. Terminal or juvenile red foxes are known as kits. Males are called tots or dogs, females are called vixens, and young are known as cubs or kits. 14. Although the Arctic fox has a small native population in northern Scandinavia, and while the corsac fox's range extends into European Russia, the red fox is the only fox native to Western Europe, and so is simply called the fox in colloquial British English. Etymology: the word fox comes from Old English, which derived from Proto-Germanic *fusas. Compare with West Frisian fox, Dutch Vaas, and German Fuchs. This, in turn, derives from Proto-Indo-European *pu, thick-haired, tail. Compared to the Hindi puch tail, Tocharian bpaka tail, chowry, and Lithuanian pukas fur, fluff. The bushy tail also forms the basis for the fox's Welsh name, Lwynog, literally bushy, from Lewinbush. Likewise, Portuguese, Raposa from Rabotail, Lithuanian Wadages from Uodega tail, and Ojibwagosh from Law, which refers to the up and down bounce or flickering of an animal or its tail. Citation needed. The scientific term vulpes derives from the Latin word for fox and gives the adjectives vulpine and vulpicular. 15. Evolution comparative illustration of skulls of the red fox, left, and Ruppel's fox, right. Note the more developed facial area of the former. The red fox is considered to be a more specialized form of vulpes than the Afghan, corsac, and Bengal fox species in regards to their overall size and adaptation to carnivory. The skull displays far fewer neotenous traits than in other foxes, and its facial area is more developed. 7. It is, however, not as adapted for a purely carnivorous diet as the Tibetan fox. 7. The sister lineage to the red fox is the Ruppel's fox, but the two species are surprisingly closely related through mitochondrial DNA markers, with Ruppel's fox nested inside the lineages of red foxes. 1617. Such a nesting of one species within another is called paraphyly. Several hypotheses have been suggested to explain this, 16 including one recent divergence of Ruppel's fox from a red fox lineage, 2 incomplete lineage sorting, or introgression of mtDNA between the two species. Based on fossil record evidence, the last scenario seems most likely, which is further supported by the clear ecological and morphological differences between the two species: Arctic fox, kid fox, corsac fox, Ruppel's fox, red fox. 18. Fig. 10. Cape fox, Blanford's fox, fennec fox, raccoon dog, bat-eared fox. Origin's species is Eurasian in origin, and may have evolved from either Vulpes alopecoides or the related Chinese V. chicochinensis, both of which lived during the Middle Villafranchian of the Pleistocene epoch. 19. The earliest fossil specimens of V. vulpes were uncovered in Baranya County, Hungary, dating from 3.4 to 1.8 million years ago. 20. The ancestral red fox was likely more diminutive compared to today's extant foxes, as the earliest red fox fossils have shown a smaller build than living specimens. The earliest fossil remains of the modern species date back to the mid-Pleistocene, 21 found in association with middens and refuse left by early human settlements. This has led to the theory that the red fox was hunted by primitive humans as both a source of food and pelts. The possibility also exists of red foxes scavenging from middens or butchered animal carcasses. 22. Colonization of North American foxes colonized the North American continent into waves before and during the Illinoisan glaciation and during the Wisconsin glaciation. 23. Gene mapping demonstrates that red foxes in North America have been isolated from their Old World counterparts for over 400,000 years, thus raising the possibility that speciation has occurred, and that the previous binomial name of Vulpes fulva may be valid. 24. In the far north, red fox fossils have been found in Sangamonian stage deposits near the Fairbanks District, Alaska, and Medicine Hat, Alberta. Fossils dating from the Wisconsin are present in 25 sites across Arkansas, California, Colorado, Idaho, Missouri, New Mexico, Ohio, 25, Tennessee, Texas, Virginia, and Wyoming. Although they ranged far south during the Wisconsin, the onset of warm conditions shrank their range toward the north, and they have only recently reclaimed their former North American ranges because of human-induced environmental changes. 26. Genetic testing indicates that two distinct red fox refugia exist in North America, which have been separated since the Wisconsin. The northern arboreal refugium occurs in Alaska and western Canada and consists of the larger subspecies VV alicensis, VV abitorum, VV regalis, and VV rubricosa. The southern or montane refugium occurs in the subalpine parklands and alpine meadows of the west, from the Rocky Mountains to the Cascades and the Sierra Nevada ranges, consisting of the smaller subspecies VV cascadensis, VV chmacura, VV nicator, and VV patwin. The latter clade has been separated from all other red fox populations since at least the last glacial maximum, and may possess unique ecological or physiological adaptations. 23. Although European foxes, V. crucigera, were introduced to portions of the United States in the 1900s, recent genetic investigation indicates an absence of European fox mitochondrial haplotypes in any North American populations. 27. Additionally, introduced eastern North American red foxes have colonized most of inland California, from Southern California to the San Joaquin Valley, Monterey, and north coastal San Francisco Bay Area, including urban San Francisco and adjacent cities. In spite of the red fox's adaptability to city life, they are still found in somewhat greater numbers in the northern portions of California north of the Bay Area than in the south, as the wilderness is more alpine and isolated. The eastern red foxes appear to have mixed with the Sacramento Valley red fox, V. Patwin, only in a narrow hybrid zone, 28. In addition, no evidence is seen of interbreeding of eastern American red foxes in California with the Montana Sierra Nevada red fox, V. Nicator, or other populations in the Intermountain West, but two in the Rocky Mountains to the east and the Cascade and Sierra Nevada Mountains to the west, 29. Subspeciescal of a northern foxcule of a southern gray desert fox, third edition of Mammal Species of the World 8, listed 45 subspecies as valid. In 2010, a distinct 46th subspecies, the Sacramento Valley red fox, opening parenthesis, V. Patwin, which inhabits the grasslands of the Sacramento Valley, was identified through mitochondrial haplotype studies. 30. Costello 2018 recognized 30 subspecies of the Old World red fox and 9 subspecies of the North American red fox as valid. 31 substantial gene pool mixing between different subspecies is known. British red foxes have crossbred extensively with red foxes imported from Germany, France, Belgium, Sardinia, and possibly Siberia and Scandinavia. 32. 140, however, genetic studies suggest very little differences between red foxes sampled across Europe. 33-34. Lack of genetic diversity is consistent with the red fox being a highly agile species, with one red fox covering 320 kilometers to 100 miles in under a year's time. 35 red fox subspecies in Eurasia and North Africa are divided into two categories. 7. Northern foxes are large and brightly colored. Southern gray desert foxes include the Asian subspecies VV, Griffithy, VV, Pusilla, and VV, flavescens. These foxes display transitional features between the northern foxes and other, smaller fox species. Their skulls possess more primitive, neotenous traits than the northern fox's 7, and they are much smaller. The maximum sizes attained by southern gray desert foxes are invariably less than the average sizes of northern foxes. Their limbs are also longer and their ears larger. 7 red foxes living in Middle Asia show physical traits intermediate to the northern foxes and southern gray desert foxes. 7 a large subspecies measuring 70 to 90 centimeters in length and weighing 5 to 10 kilograms. The maximum length of the skull for males is 163. The fur is bright red with a strongly developed whitish and yellow ripple on the lower back. 7 generally similar to VV allicenses, but with a lighter, longer, and more slender skull. 37 a large, long-tailed, small-eared form with gold and fulvous fur. 37 a small subspecies weighing 4 kilograms. Its maximum skull length is 132 to 39 millimeters in males and 121 to 26 millimeters in females. The fur is rusty gray or rusty brown, with a brighter rusty stripe along the spine. The coat is short, coarse, and sparse. 7 similar to VV fulva, but with smaller ears and less pronounced black markings on the ears and legs. 37 a large subspecies. It is the most brightly colored of the Old World red foxes, the fur being saturated bright reddish and almost lacking the bright ripple along the back and flanks. The coat is fluffy and soft. 7 a short-tailed, small-toothed subspecies with yellow rather than fulvous fur. It is the subspecies most likely to produce cross-color morphs. 37 a medium-sized subspecies. Its yellowish fulvous or reddish-brown pelt lacks the whitish shading on the upper back. The tail is not gray, as in most other red fox subspecies. 39 it is primarily distinguished from VV vulpes by its slightly smaller size, distinctly smaller teeth, and widely spaced premolars. Red foxes present in Great Britain, and therefore Australia, are usually ascribed to this subspecies. Though many populations there display a great degree of tooth compaction not present in continental European red fox populations. 9. Description: bold fox left and corsac fox right yawning. The red fox has an elongated body and relatively short limbs. The tail, which is longer than half the body length. 7. 70% of head and body length. 46 is fluffy and reaches the ground when in a standing position. Their pupils are oval and vertically oriented. 7 nictitating membranes are present, but move only when the eyes are closed. The forepaws have 5 digits, while the hind feet have only 4 and lack dewclaws. 9. They are very agile, being capable of jumping over 2 meters 6 feet 7 in high fences, and swim well. 47 Vixens normally have 4 pairs of teats. 7, though Vixens with 7, 9, or 10 teats are not uncommon. 9. The testes of males are smaller than those of Arctic foxes. 7. Their skulls are fairly narrow and elongated, with small brain cases. Their canine teeth are relatively long. Sexual dimorphism of the skull is more pronounced than in corsac foxes, with female red foxes tending to have smaller skulls than males, with wider nasal regions and hard palates, as well as having larger canines. 7. Their skulls are distinguished from those of dogs by their narrower muzzles, less crowded premolars, more slender canine teeth, and concave rather than convex profiles. 9. The winter fur is dense, soft, silky, and relatively long. For the northern foxes, the fur is very long, dense, and fluffy, but it is shorter, sparser, and coarser in southern forms. 7. Among northern foxes, the North American varieties generally have the silkiest guard hairs. 13. 231, while most Eurasian red foxes have coarser fur. 13. 235. The fur in thermal windows areas, such as the head and the lower legs, is kept dense and short all year round, while fur in other areas changes with the seasons. The foxes actively control the peripheral vasodilation and peripheral vasoconstriction in these areas to regulate heat loss. 54. There are 3 main color morphs: red, silver, black, and cross-C mutations. 46. In the typical red morph, their coats are generally bright reddish rusty with yellowish tints. A stripe of weak, diffuse patterns of many brown reddish chestnut hairs occurs along the spine. 2 additional stripes pass down the shoulder blades, which, together with the spinal stripe, form a cross. The lower back is often a mottled silvery color. The flanks are lighter color than the back, while the chin, lower lips, throat, and front of the chest are white. The remaining lower surface of the body is dark, brown, or reddish. 7. During lactation, the belly fur of Vixens may turn brick red. 9. The upper parts of the limbs are rusty reddish, while the paws are black. The frontal part of the face and upper neck is bright brownish rusty red, while the upper lips are white. The backs of the ears are black or brownish reddish, while the inner surface is whitish. The top of the tail is brownish reddish, but lighter in color than the back and flanks. The underside of the tail is pale gray with a straw-colored tint. A black spot, the location of the supracaudal gland, is usually present at the base of the tail. The tip of the tail is white. 7. Color morphs. Various red fox color morphs. A typical coloration in the red fox usually represents stages toward full melanism. 7. And mostly occurs in cold regions. Red smoky crossblicks brown silver platensmum foxes have binocular vision. 9. But their sight reacts mainly to movement. Their auditory perception is acute, being able to hear black grouse changing roosts at 600 paces. The flight of crows at 0.25 to 0.5 kilometers, 0.16 to 0.31 miles, and the squeaking of mice at about 100 meters, 330 feet. 7. They are capable of locating sounds to within 1 degree at 700 to 3000 Hz, though less accurately at higher frequencies. 47. Their sense of smell is good, but weaker than that of specialized dogs. 7. The oval-shaped caudal gland is 25 millimeters (0.98 in long and 13 millimeters (0.51 in wide), and reportedly smells of violets. 7. The presence of foot glands is equivocal. The interdigital cavities are deep, with a reddish tinge and smell strongly. Sebaceous glands are present on the angle of the jaw and mandible. 9. Distribution and habitat: multicolored North American red fox. The red fox is a wide-ranging species. Its range covers nearly 70 million square kilometers, 27 million square miles, including as far north as the Arctic Circle. It occurs all across Europe, in Africa north of the Sahara Desert, throughout Asia apart from extreme Southeast Asia, and across North America apart from most of the southwestern United States and Mexico. It is absent in the Arctic islands, disputed, discuss the most northern parts of central Siberia, and in extreme deserts. 1. It is not present in New Zealand and is classed as a prohibited new organism under the Hazardous Substances and New Organisms Act 1996, which does not allow import. 57. Australia. In Australia, estimates in 2012 indicated that there were more than 7.2 million red foxes, 58 with a range extending throughout most of the continental mainland. 49. 14. They became established in Australia through successive introductions in the 1830s and 1840s by settlers in the British colonies of Van Diemen's Land as early as 1833 and the Port Phillip District Court of New South Wales as early as 1845, who wanted to foster the traditional English sport of fox hunting. A permanent red fox population did not establish itself on the island of Tasmania, and it is widely held that foxes were outcompeted by the Tasmanian devil. 59. On the mainland, however, the species was successful as an apex predator. The fox is generally less common in areas where the dingo is more prevalent, but it has, primarily through its burrowing behavior, achieved niche differentiation with both the feral dog and the feral cat. Consequently, the fox has become one of the continent's most destructive invasive species. Citation needed. The red fox has been implicated in the extinction or decline of several native Australian species, particularly those of the family Poteroidae, including the desert rat kangaroo. 60. The spread of red foxes across the southern part of the continent has coincided with the spread of rabbits in Australia and corresponds with declines in the distribution of several medium-sized ground-dwelling mammals, including brush-tailed bettongs, burrowing bettongs, rufous bettongs, bilbies, numbats, bridled nail-tail wallabies, and quokkas. 61. Most of those species are now limited to areas such as islands where red foxes are absent or rare. Local fox eradication programs exist, although elimination has proven difficult due to the fox's denning behavior and nocturnal hunting. So the focus is on management, including the introduction of state bounties. 62. According to the Tasmanian government, red foxes were accidentally introduced to the previously fox-free island of Tasmania in 1999 or 2000, posing a significant threat to native wildlife, including the eastern bettong, and an eradication program was initiated, conducted by the Tasmanian Department of Primary Industries and Water. 63. Sardinia. Italic origin of the Ichneusii subspecies in Sardinia, Italy is uncertain, as it is absent from Pleistocene deposits in their current homeland. It is possible it originated during the Neolithic following its introduction to the island by humans. It is likely then that Sardinian fox populations stem from repeated introductions of animals from different localities in the Mediterranean. This latter theory may explain the subspecies' phenotypic diversity. 22. Behavior social and territorial behaviored fox pressed against the trunk of a pine tree in Ilmatsalu as stony-haired foxes grooming each other. A pair of European red foxes, V. crucigera, at the British Wildlife Centre, Surrey. England, a red fox marking its territoried foxes either establish stable home ranges within particular areas or are itinerant with no fixed abode. 49. 117. They use their urine to mark their territories. 60 for 65, a male fox raises one hind leg and his urine is sprayed forward in front of him, whereas a female fox squats down so that the urine is sprayed in the ground between the hind legs. 66, urine is also used to mark empty cache sites, used to store found food, as reminders not to waste time investigating them. 49, 125, 67, 68, males generally have higher urine marking rates during late summer and autumn, but the rest of the year, the rates between male and female are similar. 69. The use of up to 12 different urination postures allows them to precisely control the position of the scent mark. 70. Red foxes live in family groups sharing a joint territory. In favorable habitats and/or areas with low hunting pressure, subordinate foxes may be present in a range. Subordinate foxes may number 1 or 2, sometimes up to 8 in one territory. These subordinates could be formerly dominant animals, but are mostly young from the previous year, who act as helpers in rearing the breeding Vixens kits. Alternatively, their presence has been explained as being in response to temporary surpluses of food unrelated to assisting reproductive success. Non-breeding Vixens will guard, play, groom, provision, and retrieve kits. 9. An example of kin selection. Red foxes may leave their families once they reach adulthood if the chances of winning a territory of their own are high. If not, they will stay with their parents at the cost of postponing their own reproduction. Reproduction and development for information. Mating behavior of melanistic red fox-eared fox, Kitsred foxes, Matingrid foxes reproduce once a year in spring. 2 months prior to oestrus, typically December, the reproductive organs of Vixens change shape and size. The Vixens' oestrus period lasts 3 weeks, 9 during which the dog foxes mate with the Vixens for several days, often in burrows. The male's bulbus glandus enlarges during copulation, 10 forming a copulatory tie, which may last for more than an hour. 9. The gestation period lasts 49 to 58 days. 7. The average litter size consists of 4 to 6 kits, though litters of up to 13 kits have occurred. 7. Large litters are typical in areas where fox mortality is high. 49. 93 kits are born blind, deaf, and toothless, with dark brown fluffy fur. At birth, they weigh 56 to 110 g to 0.0 to 3.9 ounces and measure 14.5 centimeters, 5.7 in body length, and 7.5 centimeters, 3.0 in at birth. They are short-legged, large-headed, and have broad chests. 7 mothers remain with the kits for 2 to 3 weeks, as they are unable to thermoregulate. During this period, the fathers or barren Vixens feed the mothers. 9 Vixens are very protective of their kits and have been known to even fight off terriers in their defense. 32. 21 to 22, if the mother dies before the kits are independent, the father takes over as their provider. 32. 13, the kit's eyes open after 13 to 15 days, during which time their ear canals open and their upper teeth erupt, with the lower teeth emerging 3 to 4 days later. 7. Their eyes are initially blue, but change to amber at 4 to 5 weeks. Coat color begins to change at 3 weeks of age, when the black eye streak appears. By 1 month, red and white patches are apparent on their faces. During this time, their ears erect and their muzzles elongate. 9 kits begin to leave their dens and experiment with solid food brought by their parents at the age of 3 to 4 weeks. The lactation period lasts 6 to 7 weeks. 7. Their woolly coats begin to be coated by shiny guard hairs after 8 weeks. 9. By the age of 3 to 4 months, the kits are long-legged, narrow-chested, and sinewy. They reach adult proportions at the age of 6 to 7 months. 7. Some Vixens may reach sexual maturity at the age of 9 to 10 months, thus bearing their first litters at 1 year of age. 7. In captivity, their longevity can be as long as 15 years, though in the wild they typically do not survive past 5 years of age. 72. denning behavior side and above view of a red fox den outside the breeding season. Most red foxes favor living in the open, in densely vegetated areas, though they may enter burrows to escape bad weather. 9. Their burrows are often dug on hill or mountain slopes, ravines, bluffs, steep banks of water bodies, ditches, depressions, gutters, in rock clefts, and neglected human environments. Red foxes prefer to dig their burrows on well-drained soils. Dens built among tree roots can last for decades, while those dug on the steppes last only several years. 7. They may permanently abandon their dens during mange outbreaks, possibly as a defense mechanism against the spread of disease. 9. In the Eurasian desert regions, foxes may use the burrows of wolves, porcupines, and other large mammals, as well as those dug by gerbil colonies. Compared to burrows constructed by Arctic foxes, badgers, marmots, and corsac foxes, red fox dens are not overly complex. Red fox burrows are divided into a den and temporary burrows, which consist only of a small passage or cave for concealment. The main entrance of the burrow leads downwards 40 to 45 and broadens into a den, from which numerous side tunnels branch. Burrow depth ranges from 0.5 to 2.5 meters, 1 foot 8 in 8 feet to an, rarely extending to groundwater. The main passage can reach 17 meters, 56 feet in length, standing an average of 5 to 7 meters, 16 to 23 feet. In spring, red foxes clear their dens of excess soil through rapid movements, first with the forepaws, then with kicking motions with their hind legs, throwing the discarded soil over to meters 6 feet 7 in from the burrow. When kits are born, the discarded debris is trampled, thus forming a spot where the kits can play and receive food. 7. They may share their dens with woodchucks, 10, or badgers. 7. Unlike badgers, which fastidiously clean their earths and defecate in latrines, red foxes habitually leave pieces of prey around their dens. 32. 15 to 17. The average sleep time of a captive red fox is 9.8 hours per day. 73. Communication body language. A European fox, V. Crucigera, in an inquisitive postured fox body language consists of movements of the ears, tail, and postures, with their body markings emphasizing certain gestures. Postures can be divided into aggressive, dominant, and fearful, submissive categories. Some postures may blend the two together. Inquisitive foxes will rotate and flick their ears whilst sniffing. Playful individuals will perk their ears and rise on their hind legs. Male foxes courting females, or after successfully evicting intruders, will turn their ears outwardly and raise their tails in a horizontal position, with the tips raised upward. When afraid, red foxes grin in submission, arching their backs, curving their bodies, crouching their legs, and lashing their tails back and forth with their ears pointing backwards and pressed against their skulls. When merely expressing submission to a dominant animal, the posture is similar, but without arching the back or curving the body. Submissive foxes will approach dominant animals in a low posture so that their muzzles reach up in greeting. When two evenly matched foxes confront each other over food, they approach each other sideways and push against each other's flanks, betraying a mixture of fear and aggression through lashing tails and arched backs without crouching and pulling their ears back without flattening them against their skulls. When launching an assertive attack, red foxes approach directly rather than sideways, with their tails aloft and their ears rotated sideways. During such fights, red foxes will stand on each other's upper bodies with their forelegs, using open-mouthed threats. Vocalizations. A pair of Wasatch Mountains foxes, red foxbarks, recorded in Gloucestershire, England, January 1977. Problems playing this file? See media help. Red foxes have a wide vocal range and produce different sounds spanning 5 octaves, which grade into each other. Recent analyses identify 12 different sounds produced by adults and 8 by kits. 9. The majority of sounds can be divided into contact and interaction calls. The former vary according to the distance between individuals, while the latter vary according to the level of aggression. Contact calls. The most commonly heard contact call is a 3 to 5 syllable barking wow, wow, wow sound, which is often made by tough foxes approaching one another. This call is most frequently heard from December to February, when they can be confused with the territorial calls of tawny owls. The wow, wow, wow call varies according to individual. Captive foxes have been recorded to answer pre-recorded calls of their penmates, but not those of strangers. Kits begin emitting the wow, wow, wow call at the age of 19 days, when craving attention. When red foxes draw close together, they emit trisyllabic greeting warbles similar to the clucking of chickens. Adults greet their kits with gruff huffing noises. Interaction calls. When greeting one another, red foxes emit high-pitched whines, particularly submissive animals. A submissive fox approached by a dominant animal will emit a ululating siren-like shriek. During aggressive encounters with conspecifics, they emit a throaty rattling sound, similar to a ratchet, called geckering. Geckering occurs mostly during the courting season from rival males or vixens rejecting advances. Another call that does not fit into the T categories is a long, drawn-out, monosyllabic wah sound. As it is commonly heard during the breeding season, it is thought to be emitted by vixens summoning males. When danger is detected, foxes emit a monosyllabic bark. At close quarters, it is a muffled cough, while at long distances it is sharper. Kits make warbling whimpers when nursing, these calls being especially loud when they are dissatisfied. Ecology idiot. Hunting and feeding behavior. Red fox with coipured foxes are omnivores with a highly varied diet. 70 for 75 research conducted in the former Soviet Union showed red foxes consuming over 300 animal species and a few dozen species of plants. 7, they primarily feed on small rodents like voles, mice, ground squirrels, hamsters, gerbils, woodchucks, pocket gophers, and deer mice. 7-10 secondary prey species include birds with passeriforms, galliforms, and waterfowl predominating, leopards, porcupines, raccoons, opossums, reptiles, insects, other invertebrates, flotsam marine mammals, fish and echinoderms, and carrion. 7-10-76. On very rare occasions, foxes may attack young or small ungulates. 7. They typically target mammals up to about 3.5 kilograms, 7.7 pounds in weight, and they require 500 grams, 18 ounces of food daily. 47. Red foxes readily eat plant material, and in some areas, fruit can amount to 100% of their diet. In autumn, commonly consumed fruits include blueberries, blackberries, raspberries, cherries, persimmons, mulberries, apples, plums, grapes, and acorns. Other plant material includes grasses, sedges, and tubers. 10. Red foxes are implicated in the predation of game and songbirds, hares, rabbits, muskrats, and young ungulates, particularly in preserves, reserves, and hunting farms where ground nesting birds are protected and raised, as well as in poultry farms. 7. While the popular consensus is that olfaction is very important for hunting, 77 to studies that experimentally investigated the role of olfactory, auditory, and visual cues found that visual cues are the most important ones for hunting in red foxes, 78, and coyotes. 79, 80 red foxes prefer to hunt in the early morning hours before sunrise and late evening. 7. Although they typically forage alone, they may aggregate in resource-rich environments. 72. When hunting mouse-like prey, they first pinpoint their prey's location by sound, then leap, sailing high above their quarry, steering in mid-air with their tails, before landing on target up to 5 meters 16 feet away. 1. They typically only feed on carrion in the late evening hours and at night. 7. They are extremely possessive of their food and will defend their catches from even dominant animals. 49. 58 red foxes may occasionally commit acts of surplus killing. During one breeding season, for red foxes were recorded to have killed around 200 black-headed gulls each, with peaks during dark, windy hours when flying conditions. Losses to poultry and pen game birds can be substantial because of this. 949. 160 for red foxes seem to dislike the taste of moles, but will nonetheless catch them alive and present them to their kits as playthings. 49. 41A 2008 to 2010 study of 80 for red foxes in the Czech Republic and Germany found that successful hunting in long vegetation or under snow appeared to involve an alignment of the red fox with the Earth's magnetic field. 8182. Red foxes are the most important rabies vector in Europe. In London, arthritis is common in foxes, being particularly frequent in the spine. 9 foxes may be infected with leptospirosis and tularemia, though they are not overly susceptible to the latter. They may also fall ill from listeriosis and spirochetosis, as well as acting as vectors in spreading erysipelas, brucellosis, and tick-borne encephalitis, a mysterious fatal disease near Lake Sartlin in the Novosibirsk Oblast was noted among local red foxes, but the cause was undetermined. The possibility was considered that it was caused by an acute form of encephalomyelitis, which was first observed in captive-bred silver foxes. Individual cases of foxes infected with Yersinia pestis are known. 7 red foxes are not readily prone to infestation with fleas. Species like Spilopsilus cuniculi are probably only caught from the fox's prey species, while others like Archaeopsilla erinaceae are caught whilst traveling. Fleas that feed on red foxes include Pulex irritans, Ctenocephalides canis, and Paracheras mellis. Ticks such as Ixodes racinus and Ihexagonus are not uncommon in red foxes, and are typically found on nursing vixens and kits still in their earths. The Laustrichidex vulpus specifically targets red foxes, but is found infrequently. The mite Sarcops scabiei is the most important cause of mange in red foxes. It causes extensive hair loss, starting from the base of the tail and hind feet, then the rump before moving on to the rest of the body. In the final stages of the condition, red foxes can lose most of their fur, 50% of their body weight, and may gnaw at infected extremities. In the epizootic phase of the disease, it usually takes red foxes for months to die after infection. Other endoparasites include Demodex folliculorum, notodeers, Otodex sinitus, which is frequently found in the ear canal, Linguatula serrata, which infects the nasal passages, and ringworms. 7. Up to 60 helminth species are known to infect captive-bred foxes in fur farms, while 20 are known in the wild. Several Cochidian species of the genera Isospora and Imeria are also known to infect them. 7. The most common nematode species found in red fox guts are Toxocara canis and Uncinaria stenocephala, Capillaria eryphila, 103, and Chronosoma vulpes, the latter to infect their lungs and trachea. 100 for Capillaria plica infects the red fox's bladder. Trichinella spiralis rarely affects them. The most common tapeworm species in red foxes are Taenia spiralis and T. pisiformis. Others include Echinococcus granulosus and E. multilocularis. 11 trematode species infect red foxes, 9 including Metarchus conjunctus. 105 a red fox from was found to be a host of intestinal parasitic acanthocephalan worms. Paschicentis canicola in Bushir province, Iran. 106 Paschicentis procumbens and Paschicentis ehrenbergi in both in Egypt. 107 red foxes feature prominently in the folklore and mythology of human cultures with which they are sympatric. The Toimatian fox, 108, or Cadmean vixen, was a gigantic fox that was destined never to be caught. The fox was one of the children of Echidna. 109 in Celtic mythology, the red fox is a symbolic animal. In the Cotswolds, witches were thought to take the shape of foxes to steal butter from their neighbors. 110. In later European folklore, the figure of Reynard the Fox symbolizes trickery and deceit. He originally appeared as a secondary character in the 1150 poem. He reappeared in 1175 in Pierre St. Cloud's La Roman de Renart and made his debut in England In Geoffrey Chaucer's The Nun's Priest's Tale, many of Reynard's adventures may stem from actual observations on fox behavior. He is an enemy of the wolf and has a fondness for blackberries and grapes. Chinese folk tales tell of fox spirits, called hulijing, that may have up to 9 tails, or kumiho, as they are known in Korea. 111. In Japanese mythology, the kitsune are fox-like spirits possessing magical abilities that increase with their age and wisdom. Foremost among these is the ability to assume human form. While some folk tales speak of kitsune employing this ability to trick others, other stories portray them as faithful guardians, friends, lovers, and wives. 112. In Arab folklore, the fox is considered a cowardly, weak, deceitful, and cunning animal, said to feign death by filling its abdomen with air to appear bloated, then lies on its side, awaiting the approach of unwitting prey. 43. The animal's cunning was noted by the authors of the Bible, who applied the word fox to false prophets Ezekiel 13:4 and the hypocrisy of Herod Antipas. The cunning fox is commonly found in Native American mythology, where it is portrayed as an almost constant companion to coyote. Fox, however, is a deceitful companion that often steals coyotes' food. In the Achomawi creation myth, fox and coyote are the co-creators of the world that leave just before the arrival of humans. The Yurok tribe believed that fox, in anger, captured the sun and tied him to a hill, causing him to burn a great hole in the ground. An Inuit story tells of how fox, portrayed as a beautiful woman, tricks a hunter into marrying her, only to resume her true form and leave after he offends her. A Menominee story tells of how fox is an untrustworthy friend to wolf. 114. Urban red foxes are most active at dusk and dawn, doing most of their hunting and scavenging at these times. It is uncommon to spot them during the day, but they can be caught sunbathing on roofs of houses or sheds. Urban red foxes will often make their homes in hidden and undisturbed spots in urban areas as well as on the edges of a city, visiting at night for sustenance. They sleep at night in dens. While urban red foxes will scavenge successfully in the city, and the red foxes tend to eat anything that humans eat, some urban residents will deliberately leave food out for the animals, finding them endearing. Doing this regularly can attract urban red foxes to one's home. They can become accustomed to human presence, warming up to their providers by allowing themselves to be approached and in some cases even played with, particularly young kids. 122. Urban red fox control. Urban red foxes can cause problems for They have been known to steal chickens, disrupt rubbish bins, and damage gardens. Most complaints about urban red foxes made to local authorities occur during the breeding season in late January, early February, or from late April to August when the new kits are developing. 122. In the UK, hunting red foxes in urban areas is banned and shooting them in an urban environment is not suitable. One alternative to hunting urban red foxes has been to trap them, which appears to be a more viable method. 124. However, killing red foxes has little effect on the population in an urban area. Those that are killed are very soon replaced, either by new kits during the breeding season or by other red foxes moving into the territory of those that were killed. A more effective method of urban red fox control is to deter them from the specific areas they inhabit. Deterrents such as creosote, diesel oil, or ammonia can be used. Cleaning up and blocking access to den locations can also discourage an urban red fox's return. 122. Relationship between urban and rural red foxes. Fleet. The urban red fox from the BBC TV series Winter Watch. In January 2014, it was reported that Fleet, a relatively tame urban red fox tracked as part of a wider study by the University of Brighton in partnership with the BBC TV series Winter Watch, had unexpectedly traveled 195 miles in 21 days from his neighborhood in Hove at the western edge of East Sussex across rural countryside as far as the town of Rye, near the eastern edge of the county. He was still continuing his journey when the GPS collar stopped transmitting due to suspected water damage, along with setting a record for the longest journey undertaken by a tracked red fox in the United Kingdom. His travels have highlighted the fluidity of movement between rural and urban red fox populations. Wolves may kill and eat red foxes in disputes over carcasses. 784. In areas in North America where red fox and coyote populations are sympatric, red fox ranges tend to be located outside coyote territories. The principal cause of this separation is believed to be active avoidance of coyotes by the red foxes. Interactions between the two species vary in nature, ranging from active antagonism to indifference. The majority of aggressive encounters are initiated by coyotes, and there are few reports of red foxes acting aggressively toward coyotes except when attacked or when their kits were approached. Foxes and coyotes have sometimes been seen feeding together. 85. In Israel, red foxes share their habitat with golden jackals. Where their ranges meet, the two canids compete due to near-identical diets. Red foxes ignore golden jackal scents or tracks in their territories and avoid close physical proximity with golden jackals themselves. In areas where golden jackals become very abundant, the population of red foxes decreases significantly, apparently because of competitive exclusion. 86. However, there is one record of multiple red foxes interacting peacefully with a golden jackal in southwestern Germany. 87. A golden eagle feeding on a red fox or foxes dominate raccoon dogs, sometimes killing their kits or biting adults to death. Cases are known of red foxes killing raccoon dogs after entering their dens. Both species compete for mouse-like prey. This competition reaches a peak during early spring when food is scarce. In Tatarstan, red fox predation accounted for 11.1% of deaths among 50 for raccoon dogs and amounted to 14.3% of 186 raccoon dog deaths in northwestern Russia. 7.